Under the same moon, we share the love, embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Watching the World. Tonight, we're going to cover Iran for more than 40 years, taking a look, going back down memory lane to try to understand how we got here today. Before I get started with Iran, I want to tell you something that I've observed, and maybe you can keep your eye on this particular situation. As you know, I went out to Tucson, Arizona. I was out there at the Nancy Guthrie missing case. And that case seems awfully strange, not able to piece it together. Now they're trying to say perhaps the person dealt with the electrical box. It seems rather high tech. But you know what? We have so many people going missing around the world, especially here in the United States. And I want to shed light on a case that, to me, it might be similar to Nancy Guthrie. And the man just went missing into thin air. In fact, he's a person that has been in the Army. He was a general, and he also dealt with UFOs. Let's take a look. I want to really bring attention to this case because it seems that not all cases are created equally as far as the amount of information that gets out and how much light is shed on the case. Let's take a look at William Neal McCaslin.
Retired U.S. Air Force Major General William Neal McCaslin has been reported missing in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Authorities have issued a silver alert, which is used when a missing adult may be in danger due to medical issues or other vulnerability. The case is being handled by the...
You know, what's strange about this case is how close he is to the border, too, as well. Not too far away, in fact, from the perspective of Arizona.
Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, BCSO. BCSO stated they are concerned for his safety because of medical issues, but they have not released specific medical details. The area where McCaslin was last seen is located in northeast Albuquerque near the Sandia Mountain.
Now, being out at Nancy Guthrie's home, it actually looks familiar, even the layout. In fact, his home looks very similar to hers. I'm not saying it's connected, but I'm saying it's worth looking at.
The neighborhood is part of the Sandia Heights foothills, a residential area built along the lower slopes of the mountains.
Quite frankly, just looking at the photo, it looks so close to Nancy Guthrie's because you have the big mountains in the backdrop, awfully familiar from the looks of it.
It includes winding residential roads with cul-de-sacs, hillside homes with large
same winding roads with cul-de-sacs,
properties, and immediate access to desert terrain and hiking trails.
And immediate access to desert and hiking trails. It's so similar, to say the least, and the man just went missing.
It is a place where the city ends and the mountain foothills begin, and that is where Major General William Neal...
Nancy Guthrie is in the foothills, and lo and behold, this guy that went missing is in the foothills.
McCaslin was last seen before he disappeared. Major General William Neal McCaslin served as one of the senior scientific and technology leaders in the United States Air Force. During his career, he worked primarily in space systems, advanced aerospace technology, and military research programs. He eventually became commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. AFRL is the primary research organization for the U.S. Air Force and oversees many of the technologies that later become operational military systems. While leading the...
Yes, Kendra, it's quite strange to say the least.
The AFRL, McCaslin oversaw more than $2 billion per year in science and technology research funding and directed a workforce of over 10,000 scientists, engineers, and technical staff across multiple research directorates. These programs included work in space systems, advanced materials, propulsion technologies, directed.
His case is not getting national attention or international attention for that sake as much as Nancy Guthrie, but it's something to keep in mind. Definitely, there's so many similar things with his case to Nancy Guthrie's.
Energy research, human performance science, sensors, and artificial intelligence technologies used by the Air Force and Department of Defense. After retiring from the Air Force in 2013, McCaslin continued working in advanced defense and aerospace research in the private sector. He became Director of Technology at Applied Technology Associates, a company that develops advanced engineering solutions and conducts research for U.S. defense agencies. I'm personally amazed at the lack of news coverage on this and lack of information, and it should be a much bigger story. So I wanted to read this report, and if people like it, I'll probably do more. I also find it very curious and feel as though the photos of this person have been completely removed or whitewashed from the internet. Let me know your thoughts.
Okay, so let's keep our eyes out. Perhaps we could look into this case as well. I'm definitely going to be covering it here. But now we're going to move on and talk about this whole case with Iran and how this war could affect each and every one of us if it goes to that level. Right now, they're still calling it lightly a conflict, all sorts of things except war. But many people, especially in the headlines, you're starting to see people say, could this be World War III? The journey that we have with Iran has not just started, folks. It goes back many, many moons ago. In fact, let me take you back to a place in time.
Special report that we planned to bring you tonight was about domestic politics, the battle among the Democrats. But we think the crisis in Iran is more urgent right now than the campaign here at home.
1979. 1979. Can you imagine?
Some 60 Americans, including our fellow citizen whom you just saw bound and blindfolded, are now beginning their 6th day of captivity inside the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. It's Friday morning there now, but throughout this night in Washington,
the same Tehran that's being bombed all over the place right now,
officials will continue their search for some way to negotiate the hostages' freedom. That search was not successful today. In this broadcast, we'll have reports on the diplomatic efforts to resolve the problem and on other aspects of the crisis as well. But we begin now with an on-the-scene account by the one American television correspondent.
You see the difference in the news broadcasting, 1979 versus now. Didn't even have cell phones, and now you can watch the news just about anywhere you want to, especially with the cell phone, right? And look at the graphics, much different, but the story is still the same. 47 years ago, dealing with Iran.
Who has been there since the beginning, the seizure of the embassy last Sunday, and who, with his crew, has provided us with outstanding coverage all this week. Here is Bob Dyke in Tehran.
This picture tells it all.
It tells it all, folks. They're burning the American flag. What similarities do we see to today, right?
This flag was apparently taken from someone's office inside the United States Embassy. It was burned Tuesday evening outside the embassy's gates. To the Iranian demonstrators who set fire to it, this was a symbol of victory.
How old were you in 1979? We could start there.
2 days earlier, several hundred young people, mainly students at Tehran University, had taken over the embassy. We are not occupiers, they said. We have thrown out the occupiers. But instead of chasing all the Americans out of the compound, the Iranians imprisoned them in a building somewhere on these grounds. They have been hostages ever since. This morning, for the first time since the hostages were put under lock and
Does it look familiar to you?
key, one of the captives, blindfolded, was brought out
Look at the American.
to the open.
He is Harry Rosen, the embassy's press attaché.
He was turned to face reporters and cameramen and several hundred Iranian demonstrators outside the embassy's gates. "Yankee, go home," they cried, but they made no attempt to harm him. Eventually, he was led back to join the other captives who have been kept out of sight.
But this young woman was released.
Okay, Sandy was 15. Kendra was 8 years old. Okay, wow, we're going way back in time. Lisa was 8. Okay. All right, James was 3. amazing. Thank you guys for participating.
A few hours after the embassy was seized Sunday, she worked there as a low-level interpreter. She is an Iranian who spent time studying in the United
110 Solutions was 10 years old. Okay.
States, and her name is Fareshta Imami, and she recalls how the embassy fell.
You were at the embassy when it was taken over on Sunday.
Yes, I was.
What happened?
About 10:15, a group of demonstrators came in front of the building, in front of the embassy compound, and they walked in.
They walked in?
They actually
Did
walked
anyone
in.
try to stop them?
No, I don't believe so.
Because?
They said that they just wanted to stage a sit-in, and
What
they didn't
happened
want
next?
to harm anyone. They came in front of the chancellery. We saw them through the window. They had a banner saying, "We don't want to harm anyone, we just want to stage a sit-in."
How did the people at the embassy react to that, the guards?
We were taken on the second floor, maximum security floor, and we were given tear gas masks, and we were told to stay calm.
What happened after that?
Guys, take a moment, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. You're getting a chance to actually hear from individuals that were held against their will in Iran back many moons ago, 47 years ago.
A couple of hours went by and we heard a siren. When I asked one of the Marines what had happened, they said that they had stormed the building.
They, meaning the students?
The students, yes. They
What
came
happened?
inside the
What
building.
happened after that?
Well, they came behind the door where we were held, and they said, if you all get out, and if you don't resist, we will not harm anyone, and we just want to stage a sit-in, and we just want to ask a couple of questions. So they came in, the Marines opened the door, and they came in, and they took all of us, blindfolded us, tied our hands behind our backs, and they took us.
So that gives you an idea of what was happening in 1979. Now, I want to show you what Donald Trump actually said in 1980. Donald Trump.
You get the respect of the other countries, then the other countries tend. When you get the respect of the other countries, then the other countries tend to do a little bit as you do, and you can create the right attitudes. The Iranian situation is a case in point. That they hold our hostages is just absolutely and totally ridiculous.
So Iran has been on Donald Trump's radar for many, many years, right? Longer than probably a lot of people watching this video has been alive, right?
That this country sits back and allows a country such as Iran to hold our hostages, to my way of thinking, is a horror. And I don't think they'd do it with other countries. I honestly don't think they'd do it with other countries.
Obviously, you're advocating that we should have gone in there with troops, etc., and brought our boys out.
I absolutely feel that, yes. I don't think there's any question, and there's no question in my mind. I think right now would be an oil-rich nation, and I believe that we should have done it, and I'm very disappointed.
Notice what he said. I think right now we'd be an oil-rich nation. So the oil also has been on the radar for a long time, right?
That we didn't do it, and I don't think anybody would have held us in abeyance. I don't think anybody would have been angry with us, and we had every right to do it at the time. I think we've lost the opportunity.
Okay, so that goes back to 1980. Donald Trump talks about it, and keep in mind that the whole issue with the people held hostage, 60 people, was fresh at that time, happening in 1979. Well, lo and behold, in 1983, Iran is back at it again.
Diplomatic sources on Barbados tell CBS News correspondent Sandy Gilmore that some 50 U.S. Marines have arrived at the Bridgetown airport. Only
$25 to the first person to name this gentleman here. I think he probably shaped my childhood. That's all I ever saw on TV was this gentleman right here. What's his name? He's actually a Facebook friend of mine. What is his name? $25 to the winner.
100 miles from Grenada. A U.S. diplomat told Gilmore that an evacuation of hundreds of Americans on Grenada has not...
All right. Yahweh Elohim, thank you. You win. You just have to send your Cash App information to our email, so we'll provide that for you in the chat.
...not been ruled out. The military took over Grenada last week in a coup after killing the Marxist prime minister. On the record, U.S. officials charged their...
So for those of you that are just coming in, we're going back in memory lane, looking at Iran. This is 1983 with Dan Rather.
There is circumstantial evidence linking Iran to the Beirut bombing. They'll go no further with this charge, but off the record, as David Martin reports, evidence presented about an Iranian connection.
Can someone tell us how many Americans lost their lives in 1983 with this event that I'm reporting on right now? How many Americans lost their lives?
Appears much more solid.
CBS News has learned that as recently as September, U.S. intelligence intercepted communications between the Iranian embassy in Beirut and the Iranian Foreign Ministry in Tehran, indicating an attack against American forces and installations in Lebanon was being discussed. Exactly when, where, and how was not clear, but intelligence analysts now link those intercepted messages to Sunday's carnage at Beirut airport. U.S. intelligence believes the bombing was masterminded by this man, Abu Masawa, a renegade Lebanese Shiite Muslim loyal to Ayatollah Khomeini. Masawa's followers have claimed responsibility for the April bombing of the U.S. Embassy in Beirut.
April 18th, 1983. Would you believe?
Beirut and the sniper attacks against the Marines. American sources say Masawa and his followers have known contacts with the Iranian intelligence officers assigned to the Iranian Embassy in Beirut and travel regularly to Iran. His headquarters are behind Syrian lines in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley. To some in the intelligence community, the evidence against Masawa is more than just circumstantial. So why, they ask, weren't better precautions taken to protect the Marines?
Guys, take a moment, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much.
Following the April bombing of the embassy, Pentagon experts recommended major changes in security at American installations in Lebanon.
Over 200 Americans lost their lives with this event.
Some were made at the sites where American soldiers trained the Lebanese army, but very little was done at the Marine compound. The kinds of security precautions needed to stop an attack like Sunday's are well known. This barrier in Berlin, for instance, forces cars to zigzag so they can't gather speed to crash a gate. At the airport in Beirut, none of this was done, and Congress wants to know why.
And unfortunately, the security, in my judgment, was inadequate, and this terrible tragedy occurred.
And Congress also wants to know if the Pentagon properly planned for a medical emergency in Beirut.
With Israel located close by and other countries close by, having to fly all the way to Germany raises certain questions.
To answer some of the questions, a badly shaken Marine Commandant, P.X. Kelly, left today for Beirut. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
In Tehran, the Iranian Foreign Ministry today denied any involvement in the Beirut bombing. It said that what happened yesterday was an example of, quote, the resistance of the people of Lebanon. Shiite Muslim groups sympathetic to or controlled by Iran have been accused by U.S. officials in recent sniper attacks on the Marines. Most of these groups are centered in the ancient Lebanese town of Baalbek, in the heart of the Syrian.
So definitely, we're not new to these issues, and that's the point of going back in time to get a look at what actually happened. Perhaps some are pushing back, saying perhaps this is propaganda from the CIA and so forth and so on. At any rate, we're going to check it out. Now we're going to look at it from a different angle, still dealing with what happened in 1979. And guys, thank you for all your participation, especially when it comes to the comments and so forth, as well as liking, sharing, and subscribing.
Iranians took over the U.S. Embassy in Iran in 1979. They held 52 American hostages for over 444 days. On this day in
444 days. Could you imagine that?
1981, the hostage crisis ended. But that was not the end of the story or the suffering for the hostages and their families. CBS News correspondent Barry Peterson has stayed in touch with the family of hostage Dick Moorfield throughout these many years.
And that's the way it is. Tuesday, January 20th, 1981.
CBS anchorman Walter Cronkite on the day America was waiting for.
Ended as the first day of freedom for the American hostages in Iran.
And after family reunions in Germany came the sight America was waiting for, the hostages back home after 444 days of captivity. Among them, Richard Moorfield, the consul general at the embassy, his wife Dottie, and son Stephen.
When he came out, the psychiatrist that examined him told him he should be ready to accept the fact.
So here we have some testimony from some witnesses.
He'll probably be divorced in a year because he said, your wife has turned into a very strong person. And Dick just laughed at him. He says, you don't know my wife, do you? and
she
walked
was
out
already
of the
a
room.
strong person.
Yeah.
It started when Iranians stormed the U.S. embassy, furious that the U.S. gave the deposed Shah of Iran medical sanctuary. In the frantic moments before the embassy buildings fell, Moorfield hustled 5 Americans out, who ended up in the Canadian embassy. their escape from Iran portrayed in the movie Argo. Then he was among those captured after he led a half-dozen more onto nearby streets, but their escape was cut short by an angry mob.
A lot of people are saying it's getting so you can't even travel now, right? Do you have any traveling plans? Just imagine.
Dottie gets through the days by filling them with normalcy, a stop at the post office.
Now, keep in mind, these people were at the embassy, obviously, but traveling nowadays, there are people stuck in Dubai. About a week ago, we saw people stuck in Mexico, and the list goes on.
For 444 days back home in San Diego, as I reported in 1980, Dottie never stopped working to keep the pressure on for the hostages' release.
And just take it every day. Just take it one day at a time and look at that day as it's happening.
A visit with top State Department officials left her disappointed.
I am delighted about the briefing that we were given. Whether or not it's a unique thing remains to be seen. They're still there.
Mrs. Moorfield and other family members acknowledge that some of their dissatisfaction with the department is a result of the frustration of waiting.
So we've had a chance to take a look at some of the history that has occurred with Iran that we keep hearing about, because right now, typically what we're hearing is that for 47 years we've been dealing with Iran and so forth and so on. Now, Marco Rubio, is very instrumental in dealing with this scenario, this situation. Let's go back and check out what he said roughly about 10 years ago. Let's get to it.
President.
The senator from Florida.
Mr. President, I'll be brief. I know the senator from Tennessee would like to close on this matter. I think everything that needs to be said about the details of this deal have already been said.
Now, guys, keep in mind, this is not being said a couple days ago. This is many years ago. What were you doing over 10 years ago, right? Check out the details and how it applies. It's almost like a prophecy for today.
I do want to be recorded for history's purposes before I know what was going to happen in regards to this if it goes through. Iran will immediately use the money that it's receiving in sanctions relief to begin to build up its conventional capabilities. It will establish the most dominant military power in the region outside of the United States, and it will raise the price of us operating in the region. They're going to build anti-access capabilities, rockets capable of destroying our aircraft carriers and ships, continue to build these swift boats that are able to come on us, these fast boats that are able to swarm our naval assets. And they'll make it harder and harder for U.S. troops to be in the region. They'll also work with other terrorist groups in the region to target American servicemen and women. And they may or may not deny that they're involved, but they will target us and raise the price of our presence in the Middle East until they hope to completely pull us out of that region. They'll also continue to build long-range missiles, missiles capable of reaching the United States. Those are not affected by this deal, and they'll continue to build them as they've been doing. And then at some point in the near future, when the time is right, they will build a nuclear weapon. And they will do so because at that point they will know that they have become immune, that we will no longer be able to strike their nuclear program because the price of doing so will be too high. This is not just a work of imagination. It exists in the world today. It's called North Korea.
He's right on point, right?
Where a lunatic possesses dozens of nuclear weapons and a long-range rocket that can already reach the United States. And we cannot do anything about it. An attack on North Korea today would result in an attack on Tokyo, or Seoul, or Guam, or Hawaii, or California. And so the world must now live with a lunatic in possession of nuclear weapons. And this is the goal Iran has as well, to reach a point where they become immune to any sort of credible military threat because the price of a military strike would be too high. And then they become an established nuclear weapons power. And never in the history of the world has such a regime ever possessed weapons so capable of destruction. Iran is led by a supreme leader who is a radical Shia cleric with an apocalyptic vision of the future. He is not a traditional geopolitical actor who makes decisions on the basis of borders.
So what's interesting about this whole situation is that the video I showed you about Donald Trump, in 1980, he had his sights on Iran. And look at Marco Rubio actually breaking down Iran. It's almost like he was a prophet because a lot of what he said actually lined up perfectly, that what we see now looking back actually came true, right?
These are simply history.
And these two guys are pretty much running the show right now. Donald Trump with his backup of Marco Rubio.
Or because of ambitions. He has an religious apocalyptic vision of the future.
Now, let's be clear. You might believe that America is right. You might believe that America is wrong. You might stand with Iran, or you may have your belief systems. Tonight, we're just looking back down memory lane to help people get a better perspective of what's happening with Iran, and also compared with some of the history that we've seen develop over the years. Let's get to it.
Future. One that calls for triggering a conflict between the non-Muslim world and the Muslim world, one that he feels especially obligated to trigger. And he's going to possess nuclear weapons. This is the world that we are on the verge of leaving our children to inherit. And perhaps we ourselves will have to share in it. And so I want to be recorded for history's purposes, if nothing else, to say that those of us who opposed this deal understood where it would lead. And we are making a terrible mistake. And I fear that the passage of this deal will make it even harder for us to prevent it. And I hope that there is still time to change our minds, but here's the good news. Iran may have a supreme leader, but America does not. In this nation, we have a republic. And soon we will have new leaders, perhaps in this chamber, but also in the executive branch. And I pray that on their first day in office, they will...
Now, keep in mind that this supreme leader in Iran is much different than what we experience here in America, right? We have Congress, we have the president. The supreme leader is attached religiously because the supreme leader is second to God. So imagine when you take out the person that represents, he's like the head figure here on earth for God. And imagine just that whole, the way people are so geared for religion, they believe with all their heart, because a lot of it is attached to salvation, and people have it so bad here on earth. They're always looking to go to heaven, or they want to live in some paradise, right? These are real constructs in people's lives. And imagine you come in and you kill that person. It's almost like the people that experienced their leader in Jesus being crucified, if that was the case, right? Very similar. I'm just giving you an idea of how this whole construct works in harmony with religion. So we have the idea of what has happened with Iran since 1979. We had Donald Trump's words. We saw hostages. Now we've heard from Marco Rubio. Now you're going to have a chance to hear from the minister in Iran. And I want you to pay attention to whether or not they have fear if the American troops come knocking at their door. Let's take a look at that. Please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Also, I want to let you guys know that tomorrow morning we're having our first morning show, The Morning Crew. And I have Miss Knockout coming on. She'll be on tonight. So stick around. She's going to come on the show. I'm going to have a chance to introduce her to you. She's covered many cases with me, such as Sean Diddy Combs. All the cases were both shoulder to shoulder reporting and telling people what's happening in regards to these cases. But for now, we're going to take a look at what the minister is saying there in representation of Iran.
Coming on the air with breaking news right now, our exclusive interview with Iran's foreign minister who joined us from Tehran, which just wrapped up moments ago. The foreign minister answering questions about why.
And let me tell you something. If you think they're afraid of America, they're afraid of Donald Trump, well, you have another thing coming.
Why Iran is attacking its neighbors in the Middle East and whether they're willing to negotiate with the U.S. But I started by asking him who exactly is in charge of Iran right now after its supreme leader was killed over the weekend. Minister Arachi, we thank you for your time. Who is in charge of Iran right now?
Well, thank you, Tom, for having me in your program. Well, I think the system is working very well. We have lost a supreme leader, but according to our constitution, there is now a council which takes charge of his duties. And then the president, the cabinet, ministers, everybody is in its position. So the system is working very well, and everybody, is in charge.
We know that there's been a council. We know that there's been a council to fulfill the duties of the supreme leader, but we also know that there's a selection process in play to pick the next Ayatollah. There are reports that Ayatollah Khamenei's son is a front runner. Is that true?
Well, actually, I don't, exact information. There are many rumors around, but we have to wait for the assembly of experts to choose the new supreme leader.
I also asked the foreign minister.
Now, keep in mind that the son, who's going to be taking the place of the father that lost his life The son also lost his wife, so keep that in mind. So he's had some major losses. In fact, when this action happened that took the life of his father, right, the supreme leader, the new leader, he was also hurt, and we don't know to the extent to which he was hurt, but obviously it tells you that he experienced a lot of this as well. Will he take a peaceful stance? Well, let's look into this a little bit further.
About Iranian ships being sunk and whether he believes Iran can win this war. Here's what he had to say. The world saw your battleship sunk in the Indian Ocean. Dozens of Iranian sailors died. Your response was, quote, "Mark my words, the U.S. will come."
Joanne says, hell no, he won't. He will not be peaceful. It only makes sense, right? So we have to proceed with caution, but Donald Trump is proceeding with a strong arm, and he's not backing down. We know that about Donald Trump. John says, if they're not willing to draft the first round pick of the NFL, then I'm definitely not going. Okay, that's a different discussion. All right. The Jen says, these old men ain't fooling me. Okay, all right, let's get back to it.
To bitterly regret the precedent it has set. So what is Iran going to do? And at this
Pay close attention to what he has to say here. It is so shocking.
point, given the state of your military right now, what can you do?
Well, first of all, that was a training Navy, training ship, which was invited by the Indian Navy to take part in an exercise. And they went there as their guests, the Indians guests, and they did participate in that exercise, and they were in their way back home, and the ship was unarmed. So attacking an unarmed ship full of training officers and sailors is a war crime.
So what he's breaking down is that the officers, they were on their mightiest ship. Keep in mind, their mightiest ship. They were invited to India, and they went to India. They were on their way back, and he's saying that the Americans just decimated the entire ship and all those that are on it. And if you look at another snippet from the individual from India, he admitted that they did have to report that they crossed over the line, and that's how they basically lost their life because of the intelligence that was reported. So let's get to it even more.
I have to say.
What type of battleship, Minister, excuse me, but what type of military would allow a battleship into the ocean with no weapons on board?
Well, because it was, the goal was not, their aim was not going to war. They went for an exercise, which was arranged by the Indian Navy. There are so many other guests who went there, and they, took part in a parade. And, everything was a peaceful, training course or a peaceful training process. So they didn't need, weapons. They actually went to that mission long before the war started. And when I said that the U.S. would regret that, I meant that they have, the U.S. have unfortunately set a precedent which is, against the international law and would actually damage the whole concept of international, law of seas. When an unarmed, ship is attacked with no reason, and a big number of sailors are killed.
So not only was their grand leader taken out, but also the high-ranking officials were taken out on an unarmed ship. That's what he's trying to articulate.
Without taking part in any battle, that would set a precedent. And
the U.S. The U.S. says it controls the skies.
That's right, James. James says the sun is on borrowed time. They don't believe in peace.
Iran's ballistic missile attacks have dropped more than 80%. The U.S. has hit over 2,000 Iranian targets. The Pentagon says America is winning decisively. Do you think they're wrong?
Well, I think, now 6 days after the war, it is clear that the U.S. Has failed to achieve.
Now, notice he's not playing around with the words. He's calling this a war, even though the media in our country does not really want to define this as a war.
Its main goal, which was a clean, rapid victory. They failed to achieve that, and now they are trying to justify why they did attack us, and they have, presented so many different reasons, but none of them worked. And now they are talking about, Plan B, and I believe that, their Plan B would be even a bigger failure. So they are.
Okay, now keep in mind, he's saying Plan B. Guess what Plan B is? Just, you can only imagine.
But Minister, but at the moment,
Minister, your supreme leader was killed. Your top military leaders were killed. Your military installations have been bombed. How can you call that a failure?
Well, then what they have achieved? What was their goal? They came here for a regime change, perhaps. They came here for a rapid victory, so they can, control everything. But they have failed. The system is working. The commanders have been replaced, and the supreme leader is going to be replaced soon, according to the procedures set by the Constitution. So everything is in order. Yes, we have been targeted, but we have also have attacked so many targets in Israel. And so many targets belongs to the Americans, their assets, their.
So here he's talking about how they've dropped so many bombs on Israel, but they also hit other American targets in other countries. So he's also saying, well, listen, we've gotten some in too.
Bases, their installations in the region, and they have not been able to prevent those attacks. Our missiles are still working. Our missiles are still in place and hitting their targets in a very precise manner. So,
Minister,
guys, I'm going to tell you something you probably would only hear on an independent channel. But when you go to Instagram, TikTok, and all these other sources, you see actual videos. Some of it could be AI. Do not get me wrong. But you get a chance to see that a lot of these bombs are actually dropping on Israel. Is also dropping on other places, and people that are boots on the ground living in those regions, they're actually posting their experience, and it's quite devastating to see the effect that not only is Iran taking a lot of heat, but they're also giving heat too. This is turning into such a chaotic event.
Can Iran win this war? If I can ask you, can Iran win this war, and what does winning look like for Iran?
Well, there is no winner in this war. Our win is to be able to resist against, their illegal, goals, and this is what we have done so far. So they have failed to achieve their goals, and we have been able to resist against them, to stand against the most powerful army of the world, as they claim, together with, Israelis who are also claiming.
A lot of what we're hearing from the media and also high-ranking officials in the United States is that this could be just a temporary event. But if you listen to him, it looks like they're ready for real war, and they're also looking to hunker down and drag this on out.
To have the big army, two of them are nuclear armed, but still the people of Iran, the army, the armed forces of Iran have been able to stand firm against them.
Okay, so we have some people here that are from Iran. How does that work? Okay,
they couldn't, stop us firing missiles to Israel and to other destinations. We are doing very well, and they have not been able to stop us. So this is our win.
Yeah,
and I don't think they can go.
So he says they're winning, right? Doesn't sound like a individual that believes his country has been defeated.
There can be a winner at the end of the day.
Minister, explain to us and to the world, really, Iran has chosen to attack at least 10 other countries, many of them your Arab neighbors. None of them were involved in this war. Why are you attacking your Muslim neighbors during the holy month of Ramadan?
Oh, please don't mistake. We have not attacked our neighbors. We have not attacked Muslim countries. We have attacked Americans' targets and Americans' bases, Americans' installations, which are unfortunately located in the soils of our neighbors. So we have made it clear for them.
Okay, the Jen says, I'm buying end of world supplies today. I've had it. A lot of people are very deeply concerned about what's happening around the world, and we're seeing it affected. Did you notice, though, the oil barrel prices have dropped today about 30%? So that's a little bit different than what we reported at News at Noon today. So we're keeping you up to date with what's happening.
I've been in touch with their foreign ministers, and I have explained that we are not targeting you. We have no problem with you. We are only targeting the American installations and American bases, and the reason is obvious.
But Minister, Iran is hitting civilian targets, striking hotels, high-rise apartments, airports in many of these countries. Those are not military targets.
Well, no, we have targeted wherever the Americans are. Maybe there have been some collateral damages as it is.
You notice that on both sides of this, whenever civilians are struck and they lose their lives, everybody's saying, well, that was a missile that was misdirected or fell too short. It was blase, right? There's always an explanation, but no excuse.
In every war, look, more than 70,000 people were killed in Gaza by Israelis, and Israeli army called all of them collateral damage. So yes, there is the possibility of collateral damages in this situation as well. This is what we have warned everybody in the region beforehand, that if the US attack us, we have no way but to attack their installations which are in your territories, and then everything may go out of hand, and the war would become a disaster for the whole region. This is what we have warned, and many others have warned, and many Americans have also warned the US administration, do not repeat the same mistake. They have done it before in our region, and this is what they have done. This war is not our war. This is not our choice. This is a war of choice by the United States.
Iran's foreign minister also weighed in about whether his country would be open to a ceasefire with the U.S. Here's what he told me. Right now, you're saying Iran does not want a ceasefire.
We are not asking for a ceasefire. And we don't see any reason why we should negotiate.
So this is the part where he's going to talk about the actual boots on the ground troops.
Negotiate with the US. When we negotiated with them twice, and every time they attacked us at the middle of negotiations. So there is no request for a ceasefire by us, and there is no request for the negotiation with the US from us. We have never sent any messages to them.
Minister, you said that Iran cannot reach U.S. soil, right? The American homeland with the weapons that you have right now. Is there any other way that Americans should be concerned that Iran could attack the American homeland?
No, they have enough bases around us. Why we should go further than that? They have enough soldiers. They have enough, military assets, and they have enough military bases in military installations. So we don't need to go beyond that.
The Strait of Hormuz hasn't been closed, but the threat of its closure has disrupted the international economy. If this war continues, will Iran try to close the Strait of Hormuz?
But they have not closed it. It is the ships and tankers who don't try to pass through to cross the.
So this is the primary reason why oil prices has been going up in regards to this action that's taking place in Iran.
The Strait, because they are
the Strait of Hormuz.
Concerned about being hit by either side. So we have no intention to close it.
Okay, Kendra says, I think Trump doesn't want Iran supplying China either or. Okay, thank you very much. James says, my fear is that the sleeper cells are people brainwashed that will commit crimes here on the homeland. That's a very concerning idea, definitely.
Right now, but as the war continues, we will consider every scenario. For the time being, we have not done yet, and but the strait is, almost empty of ships and tankers because of their concern.
In this war, are international oil tankers potential targets for Iran?
No. Why they should be a goal for us?
Iran threatened tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has already threatened them to set them afire.
No, we have not threatened them.
President Trump said he's sending the military there, which has probably happened already, to escort certain ships through to make sure things happen properly. But we see that Iran appears not to be backing down.
You know, they are concerned themselves, and they don't use the Strait of Hormuz because of the concerns they have to be hit by either side.
Is Iran privately talking to U.S. officials right now through back channels?
No.
There's no communication with you and Steve Witkoff or Jared Kushner?
No, not after Thursday that we met last time. We met last Thursday. We negotiated for almost 7 hours. They were so happy when they left the negotiation table because we were able to
So according to him, this happened the day pretty much before they had their first attack. So do we know if he's telling the truth or not? Well, you have to come to your own conclusion, but this is intriguing.
make significant progress, as the Omani foreign minister said in his statement, and he checked his statement with both sides, and both sides agreed with the term he used, and we were made really significant progress. They were happy when they left, but I don't know what happened after they left.
And I asked Iran's foreign minister about
Well, what happened after they left is that those bombs came. That's what happened.
whether his country is prepared for a possible ground invasion from American troops. Watch this. President Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground in Iran. Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
You are waiting for the U.S. military to invade the ground troops?
This has to be pretty terrifying for individuals that have their young kids that are in the military that potentially could be going boots on the ground in Iran.
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
So you're saying that Iran is ready and willing to take on the U.S. military if there were to be ground troops?
Well, we were ready for this war even more than the previous war. So you can see, the quality of our missiles, how much they are upgraded after the last war, because we learned lots of lessons. And we are prepared for any other eventuality, even, a ground invasion. So our soldiers are prepared for any scenario. When I said that we are waiting for them, it didn't mean that we are waiting for continuation of the war. No, but we have prepared ourselves to confront with any scenario, with any eventuality, any possibility, and we know that we can handle that.
Are your allies Russia and China helping you?
Well, they are supporting us politically and otherwise.
Are they supporting you militarily?
Well, military cooperation between Iran and Russia is not a secret. We have worked with each other in the past, and that has continued, and will continue, I guess.
And they are actively helping you in this war?
Well, they have always helped us.
So now we're learning that Russia is backing them, and you can only imagine that China is backing them too, right?
So I'm gonna understand that to mean yes, that they are actively assisting you in this war?
Well, I'm not going to give the details of our cooperation with other countries right in the middle of the war.
For more, I want to bring in our chief international correspondent, Keir Simmons. He joins us from the region in Dubai. And Keir, he made a lot of news there, that they haven't picked a leader yet, that they're not interested in a ceasefire. And he really tried to...
So they don't want a ceasefire, and they're saying pretty much bring on your troops. We've been waiting for this action, so we can only imagine what's going to happen next, but it does not appear that this is going to be a temporary thing.
Justify why Iran is attacking its neighbors. You're in one of those countries right now that is under attack. Does it seem like they're targeting only military assets?
It doesn't, Tom, and that's not my view. That's the view of diplomats in this region and diplomats around the world. I will just say it was a calm, cool and collected performance. But, for example, they've had to delay the funeral of Ayatollah Khamenei. They would not want to do that if everything was fine in Iran. To your question, Tom, for example, the Prime Minister of Qatar, after a call with Foreign Minister Araghchi, said that he categorically rejects Iran's claim that they are only targeting sites that are legitimate, saying they're targeting, for example, the airport. But even then, the Chinese Foreign Minister, Wang Yi, after a call with Foreign Minister...
Now, keep in mind, they gathered together for a big meeting, right, concerning all of the affairs with Donald Trump, the administration, and potential war. And that's where nearly 40 of them lost their lives. So to gather for a funeral for all of these people, they're only asking for more trouble, right?
Araghchi made a statement that did condemn the attacks by the US in Israel, but then goes on to say that Iran should take seriously the legitimate concerns of neighboring countries, that China was confident it would. That is, from the China perspective, a kind of veiled way of saying that Iran needs to be careful about what it's doing in this region. We've had bombardment after bombardment after bombardment. The only reason those bombardments have not done as much damage as they could is because of the air defenses in this region.
Keir Simmons, we thank you. Stand by for us. I want to go to our senior national security correspondent, Courtney Kuby, who covers the Pentagon for us. Courtney, the foreign minister there had a lot to say if there is some type of boots on the ground, if there is an invasion by U.S. troops there, posturing at times, but sending a clear message to the...
Okay, Ms. Knockout, I had sent you the email for the link, but you could also grab it here in the chat whenever you're ready to come on. But now we're going to continue with this. Please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys for all tuning in tonight as we look into what's happening with Iran to get more familiar with the situation. It seems that Iran is just one place out of many that is absolutely have an issue with the United States and vice versa.
White House.
Yeah, I was fascinated by a number of different things he said there, but from a U.S. military perspective, two things really stood out. One was what you just pointed out, Tom, and that's the idea of the Iranian military being ready and waiting for U.S. boots on the ground. Of course, this has been a huge point of contention and discussion here in the U.S., even before the strikes began on Saturday morning. And that is because we have heard differing messages from the Trump administration about the possibility that U.S. troops could be on the ground there at some point as part of this war in Iran. President Trump not ruling it out, and the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, also not ruling out that possibility. The real question is, why would U.S. troops be needed if, in fact, they're able to accomplish most of these military strikes from the air? What would you need them for? And, Tom, the answer would be if, in fact, the U.S. is trying to inflict some sort of regime change there, it would be tough to do that from the air. And then the other big question is the nuclear program. What exactly, how will there be any kind of assurance?
Joanne says, there is no winner in any war. Thousands of people die. And it's a crying shame, but it's the truth. And thank you very much, Joanne, for that sobering comment.
About exactly what happens at the facilities if the United States military decides to hit them again. We've not seen that so far.
Okay, so we've heard quite a few things tonight in looking into this Iran war. Now we're going to take a look and see what the President of the United States has to say about all of this. And I think he helps to put it all and bring it all together and make sense of it.
Everybody. It's a very sad day, and glad we paid our respects. It's a tough situation. Great people, great parents, wives, family, and a beautiful ceremony. I guess you got to see that, at least partially. Any questions?
President Trump, did what you just witnessed make you think differently about going ahead with this war or even putting troops on the ground in the Middle East?
We're winning the war by a lot. We've decimated their whole evil empire. It'll continue, I'm sure, for a little while. But very proud of the people, the parents. The parents were so proud of their boy, as they call him, my boy. In case the young lady. The parents are so proud. Many of them are military parents, as you know. So but it's always a very sad thing. The wars.
Okay, Lisa says there's too many conflicting reports from this administration. Great comment.
Stuff is going unbelievably. It's as good as it can be. We have Pete here, and you have Steve Witkoff here. We have some additional questions.
You're 1 week in now, sir. You're 1 week in at this point. How long, as of now, do you expect
Well, I think
operations
we've
to continue?
accomplished more in 1 week than anyone thought possible. We've wiped out their Navy 44 ships. We've wiped out their Air Force, every plane. We've wiped out most of their missiles. You see, the missiles aren't coming much anymore. We've also hit their manufacturing areas where they make the missiles very hard. Their drone capacity is way down. And we've hurt them where it hurts. Including about every form of leadership you can have, we've wiped out.
You still expect up to 6 weeks total?
I don't know. I never reject time, whatever it takes. But the military is almost non-existent, if you look. We could hit the military itself very hard, but maybe we will.
So listening to the President of the United States, basically he's talking about almost like a victory lap. They've taken out 44 ships and a lot of their missiles and airplanes, their air defense.
We haven't made that determination.
What do you think about gas prices? Gas prices right now? Are you worried about gas prices right now?
No, I'm not. This is a short excursion into something that should have been done for 47 years. 47 years it's taken to do this, and no president had the guts to do it.
So he said 47 years we've been dealing with this, and that's how we started off this show tonight, going back, looking at what happened 47 years ago. But also Donald Trump, 46 years ago, spoke about Iran, and we had a chance tonight to kind of put all these pieces of the puzzle together just to give you some idea how this materialized.
Are you worried you're going to end up coming back to Dover for more of these such dignified transfers?
Sure, I hate to do it, but it's a part of war, isn't it? Who are you with?
The Washington Post.
Would you say it's part of war?
All right, we're getting some pushback in the audience. Taft says Iran warned the U.S. 6 months ago. Trump is a compulsive liar. Thanks for your comment. Jim says a complete imbecile, makes sense, so absurd.
Deaths are part of war,
Yeah, it's part of war. It's a sad part of war. It's the bad part of war.
Mr. President, did the United States bomb a girls' elementary school in southern Iran on the first day of the war and kill 175 people?
In my opinion, based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran.
Is that true, Mr. Higson?
Okay, so he asked Donald Trump I think it's 180. I've heard 150. I've heard 180 of the young females that were unalive during that blast. They asked, was it the United States behind it? Donald Trump says he heard it was Iran. So Iran did it to Iran, I guess is what he's saying.
It was Iran who did that?
We're certainly investigating.
Still investigating.
But the only side that targets civilians is Iran.
We think it was done. We think it was done by Iran.
Can you give us an idea?
Because they're very inaccurate, as you know, with their munitions. They have.
Okay, John said he heard 165. Okay, Hannibal says the lies are so telling. Okay, a lot of people said that these are lies. Okay, all right. Miss Knockout, I sent it to the email. Let me put it in the chat for you. So there you have it. There's the link. Let me know if it doesn't work for you. I'll try to get it to you a different way. But that's the link to come in. All right. So Kendra says he tell a different story. So who knows? Okay. All right. Lisa says brag, brag, blame, blame, blame. Okay. Brian says we all know Iran has the gold form Fort Knox. Okay. Thank you.
No accuracy whatsoever. It was done by Iran.
Can you give us an idea of what unconditional surrender looks like to you? I mean, what do you want from Iran?
I said unconditional, not conditional. I said unconditional. It's where they cry uncle, or when they can't fight any longer, there's nobody around to cry uncle. That could happen too, because we've wiped out their leadership numerous times already. So it's if they surrender, or if there is nobody around to surrender, but they're rendered useless in terms of military.
Mr. President, can I ask you what Peter asked you a question yesterday? You said it wasn't the right time in that event, but he was asking whether you have indications of whether Russia is supporting Iran somehow in this.
No, I haven't had that. I have had no indication of that whatsoever. If they are, they're not doing a very good job because Iran is not doing too well.
What about the Strait of Hormuz? There's no traffic really going through it.
Well, that's, the ship's choices, but we have it cleaned out. We've wiped out their Navy. Their Navy is now at the bottom of the sea. So that's the choice. This is an excursion. We figured oil prices would go up, which they will. They'll also come down. They'll come down very fast, and we will have gotten rid of a major cancer on the face of the earth. We will have taken out a cancer. Don't forget October 7th. Don't forget all of the things that have happened over the years, all caused by these people. So what we're doing is a great thing, not only for our country and not only for Israel, not only for the Middle East, but for the world.
Secretary Bessent announced some moves to temporarily allow certain Russian oil sales to India. Are you considering any other moves, including the SPR?
Well, if there were some, I would do it just to take a little of the pressure off. But I think that the oil pressure, but there's a lot of oil. We've got a lot of oil. Our country has a tremendous amount, and there's a lot of oil out there. That'll get healed very quickly.
Would you consider using the SPR?
So basically, it's boiling down to the same thing what we saw in Venezuela. It's boiling down to the oil, and we know how that story goes. But one of the biggest things that everybody's concerned about is the threat to America. You guys heard about the bomb activity over the weekend here in New York in regards to the mayor's house, right? The new mayor, Mamdani. So what does all this mean? What about what happened yesterday? Did you hear what happened in regards to the airport taking on the threat, and they had to evacuate it because of the bomb threat? So nowadays, traveling, we see the prices of gas. There's so much happening, but the only thing that we can do is pretty much look forward to those who are taking the lead to tell us the truth and also operate in a way that's beneficial to all Americans. At this time, we're going to invite on Miss Knockout. She's going to be a part of our morning show tomorrow morning. You might want to tune in. We're going to get started at 7 a.m., nice and early. So I look forward to having her on. She's amazing. We've covered so many different cases together, especially when it comes to Sean Diddy Combs. And right now, we have the Alexander brothers. We've also covered Luigi Mangione's case together as well, and so much more. It's my pleasure to introduce to you, she's huge on TikTok and so many places, Mrs. Knockout. Welcome in. How are you?
Hello. How you doing?
All right, all right. So welcome in to Watching the World. We're having a discussion today. Could you just tell everybody who you are so that they can understand what you bring to the table?
Yeah. What's up, everybody? My name is Miss Knockout. I'm from Queens, but I live in, the New York area right now. So I covered the Diddy trial with Mel. We met out there. Mel was doing his thing out there, and he's still doing his thing. Basically, I am a music artist, and I started out as like a battle rapper in Queens, and then I grew into mostly writing songs and continue my career. But in the midst of that, I've written for magazines. I interviewed top 40 artists, Busta Rhymes, Keisha Cole, so you name it. And from there, I started streaming, and the Diddy trial came along, and I jumped up and ran down there the first time he got arrested, and I continued on with the case the following year when the whole trial continued. And basically, I went in and took notes and came outside and broadcast my findings of the trial. And, my the clock took off from there. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm just continuing my journey in, journalism independently, and my music journal and journey. And also I'm an actor. I did a lot of shows. I did Orange is the New Black. I did Law and Order, Raising Cain, and a lot of things. And, so, kind of like got my hands in different pots.
Okay,
Yeah.
very, very good. So what are your thoughts when it comes to this whole war situation involving Iran?
Oh, well, we're in quite the position that most Americans don't want to be in. The average American does not want to be at war right now. We want to be enjoying our life, and summertime's coming. We want to go to the park and enjoy all the free concerts and the restaurants, and we don't want to be looking over our shoulder every 5 minutes. And it's something that we didn't create, but we got to deal with right now. So it's unfortunate. I tell people on my stream to, be careful what you where you go. Be aware of your surroundings. They just found that bomb in Gracie Mansion, and it was a real. It was no fake and makeshift. It was a real thing, and unfortunately they're going to be targeting these things around on our territory because they can't get here like we could get to them without aircraft and bombination of their spots and stuff, and they could get to our spots over outside of here, but they can't really get close to the U.S. because if they get too close, they're going to be shot down. So what are they going to do? They're going to target us in other ways, and in ways that we don't know which way they're going to come from, and a lot of them are already here. So it's unfortunately that we can't enjoy our life and go eat in peace and go to an event in peace. Unfortunately, we have to deal with this, but here we are. So we just got to protect ourselves.
Right. What are the measures in place for people in the city, especially with all the high rises? How do they expect you to respond in the event of a bomb, just randomly someone out in the street? What parameters are in place for survival?
Well, I feel like New York has a very good response team, as far as that they got right to that the bomb in Macy the mansion, the mayor's mansion. They got right there. Two cops ran towards it. They didn't hesitate. It's like we have a real good response team. Like I said, they're gonna be just doing stuff around unpredictably when we gotta just be prepared. But I do feel we got a good response team when things do happen. And New Yorkers kind of band together when these situations get serious like this. We seen it in 9/11, how everybody band together and helped each other. The lights went out and the restaurants were closed, but we all band together. And during COVID, we all, on my block, every week, everybody stuck their head out the window and applauded like that we're still here. So New Yorkers kind of band together, when the goings get tough. So.
Right. So when it comes to the high-rise buildings, like over the weekend when there was a bomb threat in the airport, they had to evacuate the entire building. So what happens in the city when that happens, like in a residential building?
Well, the only thing you could do is stay vigilant, and like I said, be aware of your surroundings. Keep your ears and eyes open. So we usually just sit in our house and we're just doing our own thing, but now we got to sit in our house and keep our ear to the street because unfortunately, if somebody does plant a bomb in, apartment or a high rise, the only thing we could do is evacuate. That's the only thing we could do. So, you have to really train yourself and your family, how to escape these situations and do little drills and stuff. This comes in handy. It's a reason why schools do fire drills with the kids.
Right. So Donald Trump is originally from New York. What's the overall sentiment of Donald Trump? Let's say going back 20 years versus now. Is it the same or better, worse?
As far as him coming, like his reception in New York,
Yes.
I feel like it's, a little worse, with his case that went on that made him a felonizer. I feel like he is very disgruntled with New York, and New York is kind of disgruntled with him. They just had a thing where I seen where they was in front of his hotel, and then everybody stuck the middle finger up at the same time, and I thought it was AI, but they told me no, that was real. So that goes to show you, like, and then you got people that's still rocking with him. It's a free country. At the end of the day, you follow who you want to follow. You can't tell people, who to follow and what political stance to have. But I don't feel like the reception in New York is like, back in the days reception. It's a little bit different. Look what's going on.
Right,
It's a lot
right.
going on.
Do you think that Mamdani has made a big difference, or you think it's still business as usual in New York?
Well, I feel like when Mandani first got elected, right? I did my research. I feel like they were trying to scare people into not voting for him. So I did my research and found out that most of the stuff that they were saying about him was unfactual, right? So they wanted to scare you out of voting for him because I feel Mandani is for the working class. And the powers that be don't like that. The powers that be want you to be for the rich, cut their taxes. The working class paid for it. But Madani is for the working class. So when that happens, they try to, they put out things out there about him that's not true to turn you off from him. But what I've seen so far, Mandani is for the people. He's younger. He's like hip to certain things that's going on. And he's for the working class. He's for rent control and bringing down rent. He just had a store in the lower side on Soho. He had opened up a free supermarket where you could just go in there and fill your bag out and you don't have to pay for any groceries. And they did that for a week, to test it out. You know what I'm saying? So, whenever somebody's looking out for the working class, they always face some backlash.
Right. I went down to the city and covered that pop-up grocery store, and
Yeah.
actually, Mom Donnie was there when I was there, so
Oh,
had a
that was
chance
good.
to had a chance to interact with him just a little bit. But I
Mhm.
thought the line was like 4 or 5 blocks down the street. A lot of people participated in that free food. They let you basically fill up one bag from what I could see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to make it down there, but I looked at and was watching it online and stuff. And it's good to look out for people that don't have, and in a world where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. You know, we see that going on all around us. We got to have somebody looking out for the working class, and people. One person can't go buy a sandwich. Meanwhile, the next person is eating caviar. In the greatest U.S. of A. I feel like nobody should starve. Everybody should have a place to stay. You know, everybody should
Right.
have health care.
Right. With having a past in the music industry, what was it like to cover Sean Diddy Combs' case, actually knowing some of the people involved?
Yeah, it was kind of like really hit me because, you know, you got to give it up. You must say that Diddy did um, bring forth some of the greatest artists that we know. The list is long. Mary J. Blige, Jodeci, Faith Evans, Black Rob. The list goes on and on and on. And to see somebody that like everybody looked up to at one time to be in that position was very hard. You know, and it was what it was. I covered it from a level of fairness. Like as a journalist, I call it in the middle like a fiddle, because I feel like as journalists, we should be just the vehicle to bring the news to the people and let the people make their assumptions and decide. Some creators were on this side, some creators were on that side. You know what I'm saying? Some creators was friends with the family when they was outside and around, and then when they went in the courtroom, they said, "Oh, I don't like Diddy," you know. But as a good journalist, I wanted to stay in the middle like a fiddle and just make sure the people got the information that they needed. And it was a tough thing to watch the kids testify. And we live in a world and society of where the internet is really prominent right now, and everybody could put their feelings out there. A lot of people had some harsh feelings for Diddy, but I feel like we also got to remember that we're all human. There was a lot of pharmaceuticals involved, and I think people don't look at that. They just assume their side and they stick to that, but we got to look at the facts. We got to know people are human. We also got to take accountability when we do things wrong. There's a lot of greed in the world. All the record labels, allegedly, I'm going to say, because I work for a label, but the label I worked for was fair. Shout out to Eddie O'Loughlin at Next Plateau. He was very fair, But a lot of other labels, they do the same thing. They take the artist's publishing, you know what I'm saying? And nobody's looking at that, so they're just looking at him. But, we live in a society of greed. Everybody making as much money as they make, and they don't care about the next man or the artist or have that interest at hand. And, everybody makes mistakes, you know what I'm saying? And, I feel like there was a lot of pharmaceuticals involved. And when that's in play, I feel like people are different people. I know people that were really high in the lawyer's world and had good jobs, and then pharmaceuticals came into play and it turned them into a whole different person, So we just got to wait and see what transpires. But you also got to take accountability, of what you do in life, and it's always like the universe has repercussions all the time, And so, yeah, so it was really tough watching. It was really like hearing all the stuff that went on was shocking at times, you know what I'm saying? And, it was really crazy outside. It was a circus outside. Ooh. And yeah, it was real shocking, unfortunate, sad. It's like you look up to somebody as an artist, and then you meet them, and then you find out all this stuff, and then you're like kind of disappointed, let down that all this is happening. But time is moving on, and this is where we're at with it.
Right. Harvey Weinstein, his case is coming up now, so I will be covering Harvey's case. But why do you think his case did not have as much press as Sean Diddy Combs?
Well, Sean Diddy Combs' case was like a show, and I feel like Weinstein, people knew him, right? But if you weren't like privy to the acting world, you didn't know too much about him. More people knew about Cosby than Weinstein, I feel, because he was on the show and he was behind the scene. But Cosby's case, I believe, wasn't that prominent either. But I feel like Weinstein, he was a known person in the industry, but he wasn't like this bigger and larger than life figure like Diddy. Diddy is like, he's like a bigger than life figure. You know what I'm saying? Weinstein is more of a behind the scenes type of guy, executive,
Right. So, looking at all of these cases that you've gone to, are you shocked that Donald Trump walked away with 34 felonies?
Am I shocked? Leading up to it, we sure seen a lot of things coming. It surely seems that he's the only person I know where felonizing didn't affect him. Anybody else is a felon and can't get a job. They're struggling. They got all these rules. You know what I'm saying? And he's just business as usual. Was I shocked? I wasn't really shocked. Because over the course of the years, you know, he's a character. He operates a certain way. If you followed him through the years. So yeah, and then you had those cases with the school, at the school and with the his other businesses. So me personally, I wasn't really that shocked. I mean, maybe some people was, but I'll speak for myself. I wasn't that shocked.
Yeah, I actually attended his trial. I actually sat behind Trump, and I could literally see him sleeping throughout the case. He didn't seem like he was worried. He just seemed like he didn't want to be there.
Oh,
I was actually in the courtroom. They had brought in this attorney from Long Island I think his name was Costello. And in court, they had explained how Rudy Giuliani had brought in Costello to set up a back channel to try to help Trump out. And so Costello was giving the judge, when he was on the stand, this big time attorney out of Long Island, he was giving the judge so much pushback that him and the judge actually got into it, right? And so the judge told everybody, listen, I just need a second. And he really laid into Costello, said, in my courtroom, you don't do this, this, and that. And that attorney pushed back on the judge again. The judge made all of us leave out of the courtroom. He cleared out everybody, including Trump. So at that point, all of us walked into the back, because at that point, Trump wasn't like Diddy. He wasn't incarcerated, so he would come in through the same door as myself and others. It's actually he's in the same exact floor, in the same exact courtroom as Luigi Mangione over at 100 Center Place.
Oh, okay.
Same courtroom. So when that happened, we all walked out into the lobby area or the foyer area. So we're standing there with Donald Trump. So it was kind of, interesting that I was there for that moment. But it was a shocking case. But I kind of felt like when I looked at the jury, I felt like that jury was definitely going to give Donald Trump 34 felonies. There was about 3 attorneys, on that jury. And I kind of felt like some of the individuals would have been more Democratic than Republican. So I kind of felt like he was going to get the screws thrown at him. So, and that's what happened. But he still became president. But as I was sitting in court, I wouldn't imagine it would have went this way for him, because it was a long, dragged out court case.
Wow. It's funny you would say he was falling asleep, because I was just watching a video. They had like a compilation of him nodding off in these meetings and in Congress, and he's nodding and waking up like, French toast, please. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, so to know he was falling asleep way back then. He's been, he called Biden Sleepy Joe. You know what I'm saying? It's like the pot calling the kettle black.
Listen, when I was in court for Diddy toward the end, I don't think anything could put me to sleep more than that case. I would get to court, I'd be so sleepy.
Oh yeah, it was long.
It was just too long.
Yeah.
At first, when Cassie was there, we saw these big personalities. It was exciting, but toward the end, it started to be the same rigmarole, and it was just too much to bear. But I was able to push through for 9 weeks, and I couldn't believe it. You were always outside, standing on your feet, interviewing, where a lot of the high profile people actually walked in and walked out. So how do you keep yourself going? You're talking into your phone, you're broadcasting, and then you have all these crazy people around you, fights breaking out, people falling down. Like, how did you keep it all together?
Yeah, it was a circus out there. It was a circus. And one thing about me, when I'm on go, I got the battery in my back. I got up every day. I didn't miss a day, and I went and broadcast most of the days before the trial start. I would get out there like 6, 7 a.m. Then 9 o'clock, I would go inside, take notes all day. Then I would come outside after the court and broadcast till everybody left. And a lot of times my chat, kept me motivated and in line and focused on them and bringing them the news and the information, because it was so much going on. It was people chasing clout. There were people out there getting jealous of other broadcasters. And I tried to pull myself out of those mixes as much as I can, and became less. I made sure I had the mindset of not getting into the messiness of outside, and I kept pulling myself out of it. But as a content creator, you signed up for whether you want to be in the messiness is going to go on. They're going to try to pull you in it, but you got to be calculated to pull yourself out and focus on what you're really there for, and that's to bring the information to the people. And I look at, even though I'm an independent, I look at it like a job. I'm not a clout chaser. I've been around Diddy a few times there. I used to work with Black Rob. I was in a group called Alumni. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a starstruck person, but I feel like a lot of people that came around because they were starstruck. and they knew that it was a clout thing, but a lot of people came around for journalistic purposes. We had a lot of big creators out there, a lot of people that flew in, you know what I'm saying? So I kept on training my mind to stay focused and not let people pull me into the messiness and, just have the mindset of, we all want to work together. Like you, me, and a few creators out there, we still build. I still talk to them, you know what I'm saying? And then some people I stay as far away from them as I can because I'm the type of person that, I'm super focused, you know what I'm saying? I never let nobody pull me out my square. I know where I'm going. I know what I want to do. I know where I want to end up eventually. And, you can't let people trick you out your bag. So, it was fights. It was a circus. It was, tatas coming out and you had, it was a training ground if you were a new creator to like keep your focus and keep your mind on what you're doing because you could easily get pulled in stuff. I got pulled in a few things and, that I didn't ask for, you know what I'm saying? But, I deal with messiness by not dealing with it. Like, we used to have a saying in my life, ignore, ignore, ignore. Because when you answer people and you go back and forth with them, then it escalates. But if you ignore a person, then it de-escalates because you give power to what you pay attention to and what you rant about and what you talk about. So if you're always talking about haters, then you're going to give that power. But when people are doing things and you ignore them, they're going to fizzle out.
Okay. All right. Very good. So I just want to welcome you on. I look forward to having our morning show tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
That's right.
All right. Tell everybody who you are, where they can find you.
Yes. So I'm Miss Knockout on YouTube. I'm Miss Knock / Miss Knockout. I'm Miss Knockout TV. All my social media is Miss Knockout with 2 S's. The clock is Miss_Knockout. Instagram is The Real Miss Knockout. And you can put me in Google. Once you put in Miss Knockout, Facebook, Miss Knockout, Instagram, Miss Knockout, the clock. I'll come right up. I'm easy to find.
Okay, very good. Nice having you on today. I look forward to joining you tomorrow morning to talk about some of the hot topics. One of the topics I can't wait to talk to you about is this whole 10 shots at Rihanna's house while she's there with her kids.
That's something else, huh?
Yeah. That's
and a
what
woman at that they apprehended.
Yeah, I wonder what that's about. I can't wait to hear you break it down. The nice thing about the morning show, we could talk about some of the things we typically don't talk about on this channel. Like, for instance, some of the celebrities, some of the gossip, all sorts of whatever's pressing in the media in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
The news that you can use.
All right. The news you can use. All right. We want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you for all the likes, the shares, the subscriptions. Make sure you go check out Miss Knockout on her channel. Give her some support. Make sure you like the video, thumb up the video, and so much more. We'll see you guys back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. to talk about all the news that you can use in the morning with the morning crew. Thank you so much and have a good evening. Good night, okay?
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Different voices, but the same song. Loving a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the flame remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.